Oh, right, I should probably preface this. If... Bum. Maybe we finish the squirrel first, actually. I have all of the stuff. This is the trouble when you have like the little long pieces of thread. You get caught on everything. Magnet that over there. Red thread. And seam ripper, I think. Part of this, pull that out. Yeah. Slavery? Question mark. Today we're not talking about slavery. Someday. One day. And where did I put like 30 pairs of scissors here the other day, and now I have one pair of scissors and it's not here. The craziest thing. No idea where I put those two. That's nuts. A gigantic pair of orange fabric scissors that I have no idea where it's at. We're just doing oops all seam ripper. I don't know. Seems like a big task for the seam ripper. Second. And just remember, we're doing a push for affiliate on Twitch. If you watch this stream on Twitch, you will get an automatic +1 level in the Discord. There we go. I just needed the tiny scissors. Okay. So now we're going to deal with... I should probably fix this stitch that I just ripped to pieces. in case. Coming all apart. Now we're using red thread. Very festive. I wish they made colored needles. Hello, hello. Like, why are all of these needles this color? If they were like airbrushed, they're like airbrush red or something like that, I feel like it would be easier to see them. I'll get a better stretch here in just a second. I just have to not spill needles all over the place. Yeah, that one seems sharp enough. Well, does it have a big enough eye? That's the other thing too. Some of these needles are just like totally useless for what our purposes are. I need it to have a decent sized eye and be relatively sharp. That won't work. Don't worry, you have a stretch and a hydrate coming your way. And all these are the worst needles ever. Yeah, a lot of these could just be melted down and they would be of far more use to me. Aha. This one. You should always exercise caution when using needles and have a magnet available. Definitely super, super handy. Okay. A needle. There we go, magnetize. Oh, better stretch. Guys, I'm so full. I like ate that breakfast crazy fast. Oh, it was such a filling breakfast. Top, middle, or bottom pole this time, Max? Top pole. Alright. So your future card is Bud's New Beginnings. This is a project you've already started on, or a thing you've already been working on. Present is So, which is planning, setting intentions, optimism. So you're still in the developmental phases of this. And that's hilarious. Future is Byrd, freedom and opportunity. Nice. So it sounds like you're working on something to give you more spare time. Is that correct? It's threads. Hell yeah. Red thread for the win. You know, it's taking me like 100 years to thread the golden thread while I was up at work today. Ridiculous. Nice. Another quick pull. There are different kinds of pulls here. Let me give you... What else do we have in here? There's... They're like the standard 3 pull, but... Because we usually do past, present, future. Let's do... the elements for that one. Me too. Hey, come on. Sister Cat doesn't want to play. Hey. Sister Cat doesn't want to play. Don't be a toad. Hey. She doesn't want to play. She just wants to groom herself like a pretty princess. Ooh. Nice. Okay. So with a 5-card spread, it is all of the elements. So, please. Another. Okay, shuffle on these. And then a middle pull on these ones. Deck. This poor book is just going to be abused. Okay, so middle pull on these. First card is Earth. What are the effects? Alright, this is to help you explore particular issues, so keep that issue in mind, right? The effects of this issue on your body and physical state is seeds, new ideas, and open-mindedness. Okay. Air, what are the effects on this on your mental state? Oh, nice. Carnelian, energy, leadership, creativity. The effects of this on others. Cup of tea, patience, reassessment. Water, what are the effects of this on your emotional well-being? Fog, obscurity loss. Maybe you're feeling a little bit of, you know, second guessing what you're up to. But then, what are the effects of this issue on your spiritual well-being? Lavender, tranquility, kindness, and self-care. So, the things that you're working on are good. However, you have reservations about them. I like particularly the cup of tea. Never pulled Carnelian before. That one's interesting. The seed pods are low-key a little bit creepy. Like, I like the little whirligigs on the top there. I think that those are... I want to say those are like a maple seed. There's dandelions. Nice. The lavender one's pretty interesting, too. Pretty. Oh, and by the way, the carnelian is energy, leadership, and creativity. So, more of a leadership role on that one, rather than being in the back of the group. Nice. Excellent. This is what we're working on finishing right now. Oh, whoops. This is a little geometric swirl I made. That one didn't take nearly as long as I thought it was going to, but it did take a bit. Took a while. I'm going to chase this stitch down a little bit. As isn't on dating. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. I definitely, like, I was still on the market. I mean, The prospects are not fantastic, let me tell you. But if you can find a good one, it's worth its weight in gold, you know what I mean? I told you guys we were going to do a dating advice thing too. So if you guys have any like relationship stuff, you guys go ahead and feel free to put that in there. Oh man. All that time making this inside out. Now I'm just gonna flip it right back the other direction. Crazy. I got a little overzealous with this. I probably should have left the top more open when I did this. I did not do that. I've been waiting forever for the Divinity game. Yeah, what is Divinity about? Tell me about it. It seems pretty cool, but I don't know that I've ever heard of it. It seemed really nice. Like the style of it seemed like more witchery, but I like got more of like a lore heavy heavy vibe off of it. Part of a not to chase. What I need is like a pair of forceps would make this like super choice. Hard to put this masterpiece into words. Is it similar to any other game you've ever played, or is it like totally unique? Because I did see a game the other day that had a pretty interesting concept where you can like essentially transfer like life essences into different creatures and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. I have to find that one for you guys. I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay, so we've prevented this from coming completely apart. Definitely super handy. Yeah, that should be good. Flip this back in, back to the pocket. Oh, I could make pretty cute little Valentine's Day envelopes out of these too. I just was clever about how I'd stitch those. That would be so cute. Okay. But yeah, that would be pretty... I mean, I love a good medieval-based game. I was pretty addicted to Medieval Dynasty there for a bit. I wanted to play Sudoku Dynasty, or no, Sengoku Dynasty, I think it is. But it just, I don't know, it seemed kind of like bloated, you know, as far as like just a game aspect of it. So the toaster would not permit me to download it. Every time I download it, it's like, absolutely not. So that was kind of a limiting factor with that, but I love the idea of like an old world game, you know? Okay, and now we take our ribbon, we'll attach it to the tree. Play. Ribbon is huge, but probably there would do us. Yeah. Real quick stitch to tie this together. You don't have to fiddle with it while we're sewing it in there. So what are you guys all doing for the holidays? Like, I know that we're doing like a white elephant because like 10,000 gifts is pretty crazy for this time of year. But I'm a big fan of like food-based gifts. Those are like my favorite to give out. Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, I want to see that gameplay. It looks very reminiscent of like The Witcher. Like some like CD Projekt Red developers are probably in on it. I mean, Larian also, well, it's Larian, isn't it? There we go. Okay, that started. Vibes of Baldur's Gate. Nice. Oh, I forgot that I... thing. In this. From the 18th through the 3rd. Yeah, I mean, you gotta get that bread, you know what I mean? Like, that's one of my favorite things for the holidays. Is that almost no one wants to work, so you can pick up literally any shift you want. Pretty choice. Now we sew this pig up. A little bit of, I think it's called a blanket stitch, but I'm not entirely sure about that. The original Baldur's Gate games. I never played the original Baldur's Gate games, but I bet if they're anything like, well, you know, if they're anything like the original Witcher games or anything like that, I bet they'd be pretty awesome. Oh no, I have a little rooster tail in here. Girl, what is it? Who has personally wronged you? Tell me at once. Also, I've commissioned an artist to make a couple emotes of Squirrel for you guys, and that is going exceedingly well. So those should be available. Maybe even by our next stream, we'll see. I gotta say, I'm also pretty excited for tomorrow's stream. I'm pretty sure we finish up the Abbey chapters, so we don't have to suffer through any more of that nonsense. It's gonna be a slog, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, but it's nearly over. The humiliation ritual is nearly over, I promise. And then we will have probably another poll to see if we're going to do Killer Frequency next, which is more of like a detective based. I think you're trying to solve a murder, being a radio DJ. Since you guys were super stoked on Has-Been Hotel. Do some radio demon stuff for you guys. Keep that in line with that. What are you doing for the holidays? Also, what do you want for Christmas? I don't know. I think mostly I'm going to hound my mother-in-law for more of her recipes. That's definitely going on. And then I am going to... I don't know what days are... Let's see here. Christmas is on Thursday. We'll probably do a day after Christmas stream. Why not? And then... Let's see, Christmas Eve. Yeah, we'll have a couple bonus streams that week. I mean, why not? You know what I mean? Spread some holiday vibes. I mostly just do, like, kind of weird pagan shit for the holidays, if I'm being honest. Like, I light a pyre, and I, like, make special little treats for the animals and stuff. Like I make like a gourd medley and stuff like that for the chickens. Sometimes I can't remember what I did last year for them, but I think I did like a fresh fish platter or something like that for the chickens. And then, you know, I like to mostly do pyres, if I'm being honest, for like seasonal based holidays and stuff. Did a pretty decent one for oh, what would that have been? It was like the fall harvest or whatever. I did like a pretty nice size pyre. I want to say that was in like October, September-ish. Because it's just like so, like, I don't know, it's kind of fulfilling to be able to, like, you know, one, get rid of like tons of Amazon boxes, you know what I mean? Because those are, I guess, you know, wood / paper products. And then I use those to make like an ash bath for the chickens. They really enjoy that. And then in years past, I made like, you know, Christmas cookies and stuff like that for the neighbors. I like to make little like decorative baskets and stuff like that. And for Christmas, I don't know. I'm not like really into like too many physical products and stuff like that just because I'm kind of a minimalist. But I don't know. I think there's a couple of things on my list. Like, I don't know. I've been trying to source like rabbit skin mittens, but that's probably pretty niche. That's probably more homesteady. You know what I mean? Because I think, first of all, I'm not a big fan of mittens per se, but I think that the utility of being able to like flip open to like fingerless glove kind of situation would be pretty handy. I'm also working on making a spear at some point. That would be pretty sick. You can always use a spear on a homestead, you know what I mean? I think my egg lady is making she's making something cute out of like elk ivories or something like that. She said she was working on. Now, the question is, do I do this little like red blanket stitch all up and down here just like for aesthetics? Maybe. I'm low-key kind of bummed today because I'm pretty sure like it's my cousin's birthday today. I'm pretty sure they're all doing Korean hot pot, which, you know, I don't know if I like necessarily Korean hot pot, but I do know that I like Koreans. So hopefully that is actually Koreans there and not just like Mexicans in disguise. Wouldn't that be crazy? That's definitely happened to me before. Like full on thinking some guy's Asian and it turns out he's just Mexican with like these almond shaped eyes. And I'm like, you daywalker, how dare you? Although it is a little bit easier because I do speak a tiny bit of Spanish, but I don't speak any Korean. Oh yeah, that's cute. Yeah, we're gonna just do this little stitch around the edge of this just because it's kind of cute and holiday. Also kind of reinforces this, so that'll be nice. Oh my gosh. Guys, we've got 5 viewers right now. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Does it say how long it is? So this is going to be kind of a short stream. We're only going to do like a maximum of 90 minutes because we're trying to keep that average up. But we are working on a goal of at least 3 viewers an hour so that we can hit affiliate by the New Year's. And that, I guess, just opens up a lot more, like, I guess, technical stuff on my end and stuff like that, but it does make it easier to, like, schedule streams and stuff like that. I don't know what the rest of it is, but I read somewhere that it does, like, some sort of ad thing, but I don't really care about ads. I mean, all the ads that I do on here are, like, native ads, like, for the book and stuff, so I don't really care about, like, advertisers and stuff like that. They mostly are just kind of a pain, to be honest. Oh, we're getting a lot of mileage out of this thread, you guys. So there are a couple of things that I still need to get for the season, because I'm also launching like the Farm Girl channel as well, right? Like, they pretend to be Asian when it suits them, but they're like low-key Mexicans, and I'm like, I mean, I respect the hustle, I really do, but like, how could you deceive me like that? You know what I mean? A relationship based on a lie is no relationship at all, you know what I mean? But yeah, so in like February-ish okay, so here's the timeline of events, you guys. This is important knowledge. So I wrote Bite, which is a vampire romantasy book. And then I also wrote Where the Feedback Ends, which is a more modern contemporary fiction novel. And that one's just a standalone, but Bite is going to be part of at least a 3-book series that I'm working on. And what the current project is that I'm working on is a duet, which is Moon and Marble, as well as Sun and Steel. And those are Asian billionaire romances. One is told from exclusively the female perspective, and the other is told from the all-male perspective. So it's got more boy angst in it, which I'm very excited about. Then I'm also working on How to Cook Like My Mother-in-Law, which is a cheeky little cookbook that I can get all of my mother-in-law's recipes. And I guess so that you guys can look into that too, but it's sort of selfishly for me. And I guess the hundreds of people that are like obsessed with her and wanted me to put out a cookbook of all of her longtime recipes, because she had this restaurant for like 50 years or something like that. So she has, honestly, she has more fans than me, which is wild. Those are like old school, like word of mouth type of fans too, like industry plants, you know what I mean? Okay, so here is a little squirrel ornament. I'm working on that cookbook, and then I will also be launching a small little cookbook of my own, so you guys can see some of the snackety snacks we've cooked over the stream and stuff like that. And then, okay, so that one already has a needle, so I can put this one away. I will be releasing teasers for Moon and Marble around Christmas. So I think maybe either Christmas or the day after Christmas, I'll drop those. And then the extra spicy chapters for Where the Feedback Ends will drop around Valentine's Day. I'll drop those. And then after that, I will be doing some book readings while I'm planting my spring garden. So from like February to March, we'll do some short streams on the farming channel. You guys don't even have to worry about that until February. Don't worry, I'll tell you. And then you guys will get to see the garden, and you'll get to hear excerpts from the book. Depending on how filthy my hands are, I'll just like read that like off of my Kindle to you guys. And that will also be with like little chicken co-stars, which is pretty fun. I like to set them free in the greenhouse because I'm a nut and they enjoy eating the little bugs that try and eat my seedlings. So that is our, I guess technically like next 3 months plan. But as it stands currently, once again, if you're new here, I stream every Monday and Friday about 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Occasionally I get a little bit overboard on that, which I'm trying to be better about. I have this thing where like if I'm playing a video game that has like chapters and stuff like that, I have to end it like on an even chapter. It just drives me crazy to leave things like in the middle. So a couple of times I think we've gotten to like 3 in the morning, which is naughty of me. I should not have been doing that, but you know how it is. So this is just a bonus stream. Our lovely, lovely members in the Discord wanted a bonus stream, and you know what? They got it. So I'm gonna do a little bit more crafting here. So, tiny, tiny knots. We do still have on the books to finish a like beat cop version of A Wolf Among Us also. I feel like we should save that up for if they ever do. Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Try to be as generous as possible without being ineffective. But we are trying to do also like kind of a dingus cop version of The Wolf Among Us, but I feel like we should save that for when they finally launch The Wolf Among Us 2, which hopefully doesn't take 100 million years, but that is on the books for that. Especially since we lost the audio for the... Oh, okay. Well, I think that that's small enough that we can still manage it. Okay, so the first one was a little geometric squirrel that we did. This is like pretty niche, but was requested as far as a pattern. And then this one is going to be a pumpkin pie eventually. I got this pattern from Virgo Threads on Etsy. It's an awesome pattern, and the pumpkin pie is way easier than the berry pie, let me tell you. I have a secret. What about those cookies? Which cookies are you talking about? The raspberry thumbprint ones, or the blueberry ones, or the peanut butter ones? Because she has peanut butter cookies on that list as well. I've been hyping the cookbook, guys. I've been being so good. I'm telling everybody and their mother about these cookies. You know, some of these cookies, like people in their own communities, the peanut butter and the blueberry cookies, yeah, those ones are like top of the list to get the recipes for. I have to like, I think I'm kind of a little bit much for my mother-in-law. She's just like, you know, she's just kind of like a regular lady, and I have like cokehead level energy. It comes with the ADHD, but I'm just like, hey, can I get like 16, or if we can do like 16 recipes a week, like we could get this thing nailed out in like a month. Like let's just go into overdrive. And she's like, chill, Autismo. I'm trying to enjoy my retirement. And I'm like, what if? So trying to still be invited to my mother-in-law's house whilst getting like 100 recipes out of her noggin is a delicate dance. But I'll do it, you guys, because, I mean, what else am I doing? You know what I mean? I've got see, the cool part about having like 100 projects that you're working on is you can just cycle through them, you know what I mean? Like, if she's busy, time is an illusion, right? That was the thing that, like, used to really, like, fuzz me up in my 20s, and it's like, I say that, but, like, I know you guys have heard me rant about, like, the housing market and stuff like that, but it's like, you know, it really, in the cosmic scheme of things, like, some of that stuff, like, doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it'll be what it'll be. And if you can capitalize on the moment, like, it'll be fine. But the idea that I have to, like, you know, almost, like, rush an old woman into giving me information when it's like, you know, I'll either get this information or I won't. But, like, being a bit of a pest is not going to make this information come any more clearly to me. So I'm just going to get the recipes when I get them. If I have to push this particular project, I'll just release it in like sections. Like, that doesn't bother me at all. People, I mean, think about how long people have been waiting for like a George R.R. Martin book. So, like, in the grand scheme of things, once again, it'll be totally fine. So I already have 3 of the recipes out of 100. That's like 3%. That's more than 0. You know what I mean? And if I can extrapolate, like, even, I don't know, 3 a week for the next, how many weeks that is, that's still less than a year to construct something that's, like, evergreen, delicious. I mean, some of these recipes are, like, kind of, like, lost to time. If that makes sense. Like, you guys saw how much trouble I was getting in well, not trouble necessarily I was getting into, but how much difficulty I was having in figuring out that freaking Midwest salad, because I think a lot of people just like, I don't know, like I think that maybe like the people that used to make cookbooks like didn't know fully how to cook. Like they were like 3/4 of the way there, surely. But like some of the recipes that I read in these books, and I'm like, if you just did like a little bit more of this recipe would be so much better, which is why I got pretty high praise from my other grandmother the other day. She had some sourdough bread that this gal in town had made, and she said, I don't want this sourdough bread. I wanted Riley's banana bread. And I was like, that is such high praise that she is diminishing another woman about her bread and comparing the two of us. But I was like, who, me? My banana bread? Oh, shucks, you guys. But my banana bread is fire. It's crazy. I can't keep it in the house, which irks me a bit because hubby will eat all of it. At one point, I was making these adorable little loaves because I had machinations to make them into, like, I don't know. I think I was trying to do, like, some sort of, like, sliced something or other with them. And I wanted, like, homemade fresh bread. So I made these 3 tiny loaves, and I come home, and he's eaten a whole loaf. And I'm like, honey, what have you done? And he's like, yeah, I ate one of those muffins. And I'm like, that is not a muffin. That was an entire loaf of bread. Like, just because it's like a little loaf of bread, that's like still a loaf of bread. That's crazy. And he was like, oh, well, don't make those again because I'm just going to eat them. And I'm like, okay. And those are some of my favorite things to make for the holidays. I like to make like these little like wheat bread rolls, which is just bread, but it's like less bland bread, I guess. And if you form them just so, they'll make fat little turkeys if you set them in a muffin tray. And that recipe is just so darling to me. I think it's so fun. Especially when you get to like glaze this little fat turkey and put cranberry sauce on it. I mean, you could do like a whole thing. Like if you had like small children, you could be like, we dunked the turkey in the sauce or whatever. I think I have wacky fun aunt vibes, but you know. So those are some of my favorites. I did get her recipe for her cranberry sauce, which is decadent. So that'll be going in the book. And then so far, I've got like 10 people on the newsletter, just like locally, that want to be notified the moment that I drop that cookbook. So I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. I am a little bit jealous that she's getting more pre-sales than I did, but you know, that's fair. She's been in the game for 40 years. That's how it goes. You know, she's like the Sarah J. Maas to my unnamed author. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, fair enough. Although I don't know that Sarah J. Maas has been it. I guess it'd be more akin to like the lady that wrote Twilight, which I think that's Stephanie Myers, I think her name. It's been ages since I read that book. I remember reading the Twilight series and being like, okay, any minute now, this is going to come to a head. And then they have this like, well, I guess spoilers, but they basically do like the premonition, like dream sequence loophole where it's like, and none of this ever happened. And I'm just like, are you joking? It's like that scene where Cartman goes and he's like, I read the whole thing. And I'm like, come on, like, when's the cool shit going to happen? And it never happens. And I was so pissed. I was like fuming on the bus ride home. I was like absolutely just murderous. I was like, I cannot believe I read this entire book and there's nothing in it. I thought that there was going to be this cool war and like people were going to die. And it's like, you're watching this thing so invested and you're like, oh, there's zero payoff to this. I mean, even Underworld had like a vampire werewolf fight. They were like, nah, this is too spicy for teenage girls. I was like, how dare you rob me of this battle? Uh-oh. Oh, I see. I've created a gigantic knot back here. Whoops. How did I even do that? No sense. Uh-oh. If you guys could pick a handmade craft to receive, what would it be and why? Oh man, I gotta dye my roots tomorrow. That's crazy. I'm going so gray, you guys. Ignore my signs of aging. A katana? That would be awesome. My friend asked me the other day if we used katanas in the group chat, and I was like, nah, we're a glaive household. Glaives are maces. You guys know that I took medieval weaponry in school back when that was still allowed to be an elective. I tried to make my own Morning Star, and they told me I couldn't, so I had to just make a trebuchet instead. So bummed about that. Made like a foam castle and stuff. You own a katana? Bro, Pixar, it didn't happen. You gotta drop that in memes. I want to see it. Is it like a display one, or is it functional? A butterfly knife. You know, I will say this. I do like gifting those particular items specifically to like men in Christmas stuff. So like a couple of years ago we did again, love a white elephant, but we did we did a secret Santa. So everybody like pulls names out of a hat or whatever. And I got like a distant male cousin, and I was like, God, what do guys like? And everybody told me to buy him a shovel. And I'm like, I'm not buying him a shovel. Like, I don't even know what the like implications of that are, but like no, I'm not buying a shovel. And they're like, well, you're no fun. And so instead, I bought him a very nice Kershaw knife. And I was so bummed because I was like, I want that. I want that real bad. I think they even have like a Byrd Kershaw knife. Not like, not intentionally so, but I think that's probably just like a coincidence. But I was like, holy, like, I want that knife real bad. Also getting like a nice knife for like cooking and stuff like that. I mean, game changer. Like, because I usually use cheap knives because I'm very, very clumsy. And hubby doesn't trust me with the sharp utensils. I mean, fair enough. I did place the absolute shit out of my fingers the other day with a dermaplaner. So I was like, I don't know. I think the blade needs to be replaced. I don't think it's sharp. It's absolutely just paper cut city. My turn. A little too frayed for my liking. But a really nice cooking knife. I mean, you'll just like tomatoes are like butter. You get the thinnest like garlic and stuff like that for your pasta. Except I do use a garlic slicer because once again I'm very clumsy. And if my hands are too close to the ends of my cooking utensils, like it's pretty dicey. There we go. Let's see this. Okay, so there's the divinity. Nice. Nice. You know, I never expected you guys to be as like pro spear. You know what I mean? But spears are like, I mean, that's like, first of all, one of my favorite things to use spears for is snakes. Not to like harm them necessarily, although they do work well for that in a pinch, you know what I mean? But, because we get a lot of really dangerous snakes up here. We have big rattlesnake population up here. Though luckily, I think the particular area I'm in has mostly bull snakes, which is awesome. But it is never bad to be prepared in snake country. So I like to have I would like to have a spear with like a little hook on it. So if it's like a nice safe snake, like a bull snake that just has a little attitude, I can just scoop it and like move it somewhere safe. Or, you know, humanely dispatch something if it is unsafe. You know what I mean? Because back in the day, I would love to just like, you know, I think I've relocated like a couple of them actually, but it's just like not rural enough. And I would just feel awful if I ended up with like, you know, something like dangerous in somebody's yard with like their kids and stuff like that. It's just like unfortunate. But, you know, stuff like, you know, we have yams, we have like the skunks, we have the raccoons and stuff like that. They're like pretty small potatoes, but like venomous animals and stuff like that, it's like, man, like what a pain. They're not actually that hard to move. They're pretty lazy actually. Like they almost don't want to move. And usually you can get them if you live in an area with snakes, which I don't imagine any of you guys do. You guys are all pretty urban, aren't you? But you can make like a little PVC like hook essentially, and you'll have them because they think it's burrow, and so they'll climb in one side of the PVC if you set it just ahead of them because they want to get away from you. So they're like, I'm just gonna go into this burrow, and then if you can have it like curve and then drop it into a bucket because they can't turn around in the pipe. And then you just drop them into a bucket and like close the lid of the bucket. But you have to be, I don't know, you'd have to be pretty skilled to do that. You couldn't just be clumsy. But having a nice snake hook really works for that. Got it at Comic-Con. Nice. So is it like a katana like from like a specific anime or something like that? I haven't been to an anime convention in ages. I didn't know the first time I went to an anime convention, I went dressed as Katarina from League of Legends because I'm terrible. And I thought that the armor and stuff like that was like legit armor. Like I was like, obviously they can't bring like actual weapons or whatever to the shops. But I thought that the armor was real. So like I tried to forge like a shoulder plate out of aluminum, and it was so hot because I'm like all in leather, and then I have like the leather like cross thing to hold that on because I had like little I'd had my grandfather weld like little like buckle things onto it, like low key like armor, right? Not like super great armor though, like probably like mid tier like peasant armor because it didn't have any like embellishments or anything on it. But I did that, and then it was like 90 degrees. It was so hot. I'm just like sweating to death in this armor. I was like, oh, I maybe have misinterpreted the tools in which these people are using. And that's when I learned what Warbler was. Okay, so we have the perimeter of the crust on here done. We're going to just sneak this, face this through. Yeah, this pumpkin pie is so much easier than the berry pie. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's crazy. What would be really funny is if I made like kind of like a Franken pie situation where like some of it's pumpkin pie, some of it's apple pie, some of it's mixed berry, which is my favorite thing to do to pies. You just like combine several pies, then everybody gets a little piece of everything. But then you don't have to eat like 5 pies. You know what I mean? You can, but like if you have to go to multiple like parties or whatever and you don't want to have to get like 100 pies. Can you believe that my YouTube end of year wrap or whatever said that I watched a bunch of League of Legends videos, and I think that's cap, honestly. I definitely watched way more like, that's not necessarily true crime, but like, didn't we watch like 100 hours of like, you know, police body cam footage or something like that? I feel like that's not, I feel like they shouldn't count that as League of Legends stuff. Like, that's crazy, right? And I wonder if it's like, you know, the hashtags on stuff, like, feel like that stuff kind of gets out of hand. Like, you know how on TikTok, like every other video will have like the wrong hashtags under it? That drives me nuts. It's like, I'll get more views this way. And I'm like, no. Actually, if you miscategorize something, like something deep in my core, I'm like, I hate you. Like, how dare you do this to me? Like, I feel like we should be able to throw tomatoes at people for that. Like, ripe tomatoes. Which, speaking of, I am going to be growing purple tomatoes. I'm pretty excited about that. The eggs Benedict I made the other day, because that's like my repeat food for right now. Just obsessed with it. But the next thing I'm going to grow is purple tomatoes. Hubby doesn't think I can grow them. He says that I have a black thumb, and I'm not very good at growing things, but I'll show him. I'm going to make this delicious tomato. I'm going to eat purple tomatoes all summer long, and they're actually pretty good. I thought they were going to be kind of like earthy, you know what I mean? Like more like a turnipy kind of tomato, but I was wrong. They're really good. Not as like juicy as like a nice red tomato. I will give them that. They have more of like, there's more of like a tomato flesh than juice situation. So they would probably not be very good like as a sauce tomato. So I'll have to grow some regular like sauce tomatoes because you know I gotta get my Italian on. I gotta make like just a crap ton of tomato sauce that I can eat and breathe. Crazy. But I did get these gigantic like I think it's called lettuce leaf basil. So hopefully I don't forget what those are and eat them. I feel like you'd be able to tell. Like basil has a pretty distinct smell. And that's what I'm banking on because I don't want to accidentally be like, oh, this is just kale, lame, and then just not get after it after I've seeded it. I'm really bad at labeling everything, so I try and get things that don't look alike for that very reason. And then I have some beautiful cut flowers that I'm going to work on, but I think that I started them too late. I think I started in like March or April. And if you want them to be ready to go, you kind of got to pull an apothecary diary and trick them into starting much earlier. You know, like, did you guys watch that episode? So basically they're trying to, there's this like mystery or whatever they have to solve basically. And there's a party going on and they need to have roses by the time this party goes on, but it's like several weeks like premature of like when these things would just generally be available. And so they have to essentially make like, I don't think it's a hydroponic garden, but they essentially make like a greenhouse garden for all of these roses to like trick the roses into growing much sooner and blooming. That's what they do. So I'm going to try and do that, but with like regular food and flowers. My snapdragons are still killing it right now, which is insane. Like 40 degrees outside and they're just like blooming away. I hope they reseed themselves. But yeah, we'll be doing some farm girl shit in the spring, and that'll be fun. We'll be listening to steamy romance books. We might even read some book club books out there as well if we get through. And if we get through my books, because I think I only have an audiobook of the one. I don't really have an audiobook of the other, but the audiobook of the other one is far less spicy. What happened to the girl and guy who set up on a blind date? She was pretty mad at me. She told him, like, nah, bro, like, this ain't happening. And, you know, to be fair, he did super good. You know what I mean? He took that rejection pretty well, and he got into the gym. He actually trains. He trains now, which is awesome. That's good for him. I think he has a few other things that he needs to work on, but, I mean, he took that rejection way better than I thought that he would take that. And she took it better too. And I was like, listen, like, you're pretty attractive. Like, I figured that if it didn't work out, it would be just fine for you. And she was kind of cheeky about that and then very flirtatious. And it turns out I got away with it. I got away with all of it, and there were no meddling kids about it. And so I just, you know, just scraped by on that. I had just enough charisma to, she did call me out at the comedy show though. She's like, yeah, I remember that guy that you set me up on a date with? Like, that was pretty crazy, right? And I was like, well, I mean, you are pretty crazy, so you can understand my confusion as to why that wouldn't have worked out. And she was just like, I was like, it's fine. No big deal. But, you know, when you get to be 30 and you want to have kids, you have to be realistic about, like, what your options are. And, you know what I mean? Like, that's one of those, like, biological tricks or whatever. Like, women have to start so much earlier. Like, if you actually want to, like, be a mom and have a family and stuff like that, you have to start way, way earlier. Like, guys could just, like, fall into, like, being a dad, like, well into their 40s or whatever, which I don't really recommend being the older dad, but, you know, like, it's not impossible. Not an impossible task. But you can't really be an older mom without, like, a bunch of potential... Oh. How did I form a gigantic knot again? You can't really be, like, an older mom without some, like, you know, pretty sketchy consequences, you know what I mean? And so you either, like, you know, have a bunch of kids already in your 20s, like you go the single mom route or whatever, or, because, like, I worked with tons of those, and, you know, they seem to be kind of working out for them, because I think what happens is, so if you get, like, a decently hot chick, and she's, like, pretty unattainable, right? And by the way, this is just my personal views on it. Like, you know, if the shoe fits, I guess wear it. But, like, I don't actually mean offense right here. So you take a pretty decently hot chick, right? And she's pretty inaccessible to, like, a decent swath of dudes. But for every, like, baby daddy she's got, she becomes, like, a little bit more accessible. You know what I mean? And you do have to deal with the added, like, you know, kind of debuff of having to deal with potentially, like, that kid's dad. But, like, I guess best case scenario, he's kind of, like, a loser that's, like, not involved in his kid's life, which is, like, not great, because that also means that the person you choose to be with chooses guys that are not involved in their kid's life, which isn't great. So you gotta keep in mind that, like, the decision making is probably not great there. So, you know, you're already starting off with that kind of as a debuff. But they become more accessible, you know what I mean? Like, as their social status goes down, it's easier to date them, I guess. But, you know, like, me, I personally wouldn't date a single mom. One, because usually single moms are not gay. But two, it's just, I don't know, it's a lot of responsibility. This is, I think, you know, goes into the why I would never date a trans person also, because, like, it just seems like they're going through a lot, and, like, I feel like that should be sort of the main focus that they're trying to, like, figure out, you know what I mean? But you know, so it's way, way easier for guys to, you know, get into fatherhood than it is for women to get into motherhood, because women control sex, but men control access to relationships. So it turns out, like, guys will sleep with you, and they, like, won't date you, because you're hot enough to sleep with, but you're not necessarily, like, I don't know. I don't necessarily know from, like, a guy's aspect, like, what exactly you guys look for, because it seems, like, really varied to me, personally. Because they'll say that they want one thing, but then, like, their history of dating doesn't reflect that, which is very confusing to Autismo. But I feel like women are pretty consistent. Like, they want stability, and they want a guy to be attractive enough and have enough status to provide those things. And, you know, they'll date a lot of the time for potential, which that one girl told me. She's like, I'm never dating for potential again. And I'm like, yeah, the potential for this guy to, like, take care of you, and, like, he's, like, not full sending the whole taking care of you business, so you're just like, okay. And also, he didn't want to have kids, which I'm like, listen, if you're with a girl that wants to have kids and you don't want to have kids, like, don't date her. Like, I know you want to date her because she's, like, attractive and, you know, does the things you like or whatever. But if someone's been clear with you about, like, the things that they want, and, you know, does the things you like or whatever, but if someone's been clear with you about, like, the things that they want, and, you know, does the things you like or whatever, if someone's been clear with you about, like, the things that they want, and you're just like, yeah, no problem, and you have no intention of doing those things, at that point, that's just like kind of poaching, isn't it? Like in the past, I've dated people and they're like, yeah, this is like my plans for the future. And if any of those plans for the future involve like having kids or doing anything like that, I was like, oh, okay, well, those aren't in my plans for the future, so we have to break up. And they would be so upset. They would be like not very pleased with me about that. But I'm like, well, we want different things for the future. So it seems to me that like once it's been like brought to my attention that like our futures are incompatible, like does it not seem like ethical to like essentially put you back out into the field for you to like find what you're looking for? And you know, the craziest part about that is not a single one of them thought that that was great, which very, very much confused me. But you know, like the last guy that I broke up with, I don't think he necessarily was like all about having kids, but like I certainly wasn't. And then he had a kid with the chick that he ended up with right after. And if she's still stalking me, yes, I'm talking about you, but I'm not meaning it in like a mean way. So like, if you are still stalking me, just like chill about it. You know what I mean? So if that was something that was like a priority for him, I'm happy that he got what he wanted. You know what I mean? It's not good to like string people along with being like, oh, this is what I want, and then not like doing that. You know, that's unethical. And I think that that's part of the problem. So if it were up to me, right, like if I was the head of my household, or the head of my family rather, I would do arranged marriages personally. That's what I would do. I would take everybody's interest into account, and then they would like court, and I'd be like, okay, this is what this person wants, and this is what this person wants, and this is like reasonably what can be like, you know, obtained by both of them. And then they would date, and you know, that would be, because here's the thing. The other thing I think a lot of people don't take into account is like the family element of it. Because like, if you want to have kids, like it's objectively better to have kids if you have like a stable family unit. You know what I mean? So like, if you're wanting to, no, where did I put the other? Oh, there it is. Here, I don't know, I feel like pumpkin pies are generally pretty lighter. I don't necessarily think I need to incorporate the gold into this. I think I'm going to omit the gold actually and just go straight to the brown of pumpkin pie. Oh, sorry, Mr. Kitty. I didn't realize that was open. Like, you're throwing things at me. Stop, please. Because if you're wanting to have kids and stuff like that, it seems to me like historically you would have kids. Good. I think it's like a light brownish. I feel like that's too dark. Maybe an orangier, like an orangier brown is what we actually need. Maybe even that crust color would have been perfect for this. Gotta find like, maybe this. Is this like pumpkin-y orange, do you think? I feel like this is too bright. It needs to be, aha. This one, aha, perfect. This one's perfect. It's just dark enough, but also orange for some pumpkin. Anyway, so, you know, you kind of need to have a community, because like back in the day, because like being a new mom is stressful. I've known a lot of them. And it's a lot of work. And yeah, like some people just like inherently have like that mothering gene or whatever, but it's really good to be like supportive of people, like when they have their kids. Like, for example, my friends just had their third baby, and my intention is to make them a plate of enchiladas and some delicious coconut cake, which, by the way, also thanks to the Discord for meeting our Wordle goal so that I can make coconut cake. That is going to be going to a good cause. And it'll be delicious. And everybody has, well, nobody tell them. If you guys follow me and my friend, you know who you are. Don't tell them that that's what I'm going to do. It is a surprise dessert. I just got too excited and told everybody. So, you know, you want to like have a community around you if you're going to have children, because like it's tough. And some days you're just not going to have the bandwidth for it. And I'm not a parent, So I would never tell anybody like what the percentage of those days would need to be, although I'm sure that there is objectively a number between, just passing your kids off and barely being around them, like some like rich socialite or whatever, and like the helicopter parent that like never gives their kid an ounce of breathing room. But all of these things are objectively easier with a community. So that needs to be prioritized. And one of the ways you do that is by liking being around the family that your kid is going to marry into, because if you like their family, chances are they're probably going to be pretty nice to your kid. You know what I mean? So it's just like kind of a better environment, and it's just like community is objectively good. So, but that also goes into people having to behave when they're spending time around you and stuff like that, which we'll go into that probably on another holiday episode, because I feel like that's a subject for another day. Don't let me forget. I will rant about that. But I think I just go left, right? Let me look up the example real quick. Once again, I'm making a little pumpkin pie ornament. And I got this pattern off of Virgo Threads. If anybody else wants to get into embroidery, or if you want to get somebody else into embroidery to make you guys one of these, definitely check that out. So it's just, some of the old traditions that people used to do, where you're like, okay, there's the right place. Where is the right picture? Ah, there it is. Okay, so it's just straight across. Gotcha. So, it's important to have a community, because if you don't have a community, it's incredibly draining. I mean, kids have like lots of different activity levels. I was pretty like high energy kid. So it's nice to be able to like sort of rely on your family and stuff like that to be like, hey, I just don't have the energy today. Can you like, take the kids to the park or something? And then you just have a day to go. And you're honestly, I think, a better parent when you're not like completely like worn out and just completely out of it. Thank you, Yule. I appreciate it. You're being such a trooper. Honestly, Yule lives in the future, so she's actually sacrificing quite a bit to stay up and do this. So we really appreciate that. I say we because the council is all sleeping over here. They're doing their part by being quiet, good kitties over there. Squirrel has no idea that I'm about to drop the most gorgeous squirrel emotes here in the next week, working with an artist. And you guys are going to have even cuter emotes to use in the stream. Very happy about that. They had to be very precise, and so I'm glad that she was able to work with me to get that done. Very pleased with the results so far. But, it's just, I feel like a thing from like days gone by where you can just, drop the kids off at their grandmother's and like just have a day and like not pull your hair out from stress. And I feel like that is something that a lot of young mothers like nowadays are missing. Empress draft looked pretty cool. Yeah, I really like a lot of it, but I am kind of a freak for details. So I'm having her make sure that her eyes are precisely the same color, and a few like minor adjustments here or there. I can be kind of a slave driver, I guess, when it comes to artworks. I feel like artists historically have dealt with things kind of like that. So, like keeping the tradition alive of being like a displeased aristocratic woman that's like, it must be perfect. I have a vision, and the vision must be peak. Okay, I'm not loving this satin stitch, guys, if I'm being honest. Like I should have started from the very top instead of the middle. I think that's what I'm going to do. Oh. On the magnet. But, having a community like aunts, uncles, and stuff like that, people you trust to watch your child, because that is, I feel like that's really important, especially for like new mothers and stuff like that. So when you're thinking about like, oh, like what do I want in a family? Like I feel like most guys, I will say that, over 60%, want to have a family. And so when you're doing that, you have to keep into account, like, is your family the type of family that's going to make your new bride's life easier or harder? And if the answer is harder, then you're going to need to get some friends that are, like, great. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I do think it's better for, and I am a bit of a traditionalist, but I do think it's easier for, like, the man to sort of dictate those things, because women can be quite cruel. But if you're a guy and your buddies are just kind of drinking buddies, they're not going to really work for that. The children, yeah, Hansel and Gretel, send them out into the forest and have them find their way back home. Yeah, but honestly, it's, you know, just like the cats. You were asking me the other day, Max, if, like, all cats are just, like, these, like, just demonic little creatures that, like, cause havoc and eat bread. And it's like, it's all about the work you put in. I mean, some of it's temperament, some of it's personality, surely. But if you can just have, like, a decent community when the children are young, and you can put in the work to be like, this is what's acceptable behavior, this is what's not, then you can, like, eliminate a lot of those early problems, and it's pretty smooth sailing, honestly, you know, as you continue on down. Oh, this is absolutely a nightmare to thread. But, you know, you can mitigate a lot of those problems, and it's really, like, pretty easy after that, you know what I mean? And yeah, you're gonna hit some turtles, like, in the teenage section, but once again, that's what you have a community for. So for boys, I feel, for teenage boys especially, it's important to have, like, a lot of really good male role models. Like, maybe he doesn't get along really well with his dad, but he gets along pretty good with his uncle or his grandfather or something like that. And so, you know, you have those different kinds of outlets or whatever. And with girls, like, maybe she doesn't get along real well with her mom, but she gets along well with her aunt, or, like, a closely related, like, cousin or something like that. And, like, your grandmother or whatever, and you can kind of, like, cycle through these relationships so that you can, you know, decompress, I guess, because I think growing up is just sort of inherently stressful for people. So that's something that, you know, should be, I guess, should be taken into account well before the, like, dating stage, I guess. And it's not, like, fun to have to, like, oh, what have I done? Oh, man. Didn't think this through at all. Okay, so once again. I was like, nobody wants to think through these things because it's boring. Everybody wants to just do the fun parts. Like, you want to do the fun parts first, which is, like, do I like this person? Yes. Like, should we smash? And I get it. I get wanting to skip to the fun cutscene. But, like, you know, there are more, like, lasting consequences for, like, messing up the tutorial level than it is to just, you know, be a bit of a stick in the mud for the beginning, which, again, take this with a grain of salt. You're getting this advice from an autistic girl. But, it just seems that that's, like, the more correct way to go about things. You know what I mean? Like, if you've got, like, my family, there's tons and tons of women in it. Not very many men. So if I was considering having a child or something like that, I'd have to take that into account. Like, if it's a boy or something like that, like, there's not going to be very many, like, men or whatever around. And so you'd have to, like, plan for that kind of, you know, issue. You have to be like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to have to get him into, like, martial arts or something like that, or have him be around, like, you know, people that are, like, you know, more masculine and stuff like that. But also, like, if you end up with, you know, a more artistic boy, then you're going to want to have, like, good role models in that aspect too. You know what I mean? But if you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to, like, sort of wing it and, like, whatever, and it's like, well, the consequence of that is, like, that your kid can be, like, more disillusioned with, like, family and community. And over a long enough period of time, I feel like that's why we tend to see, like, communities fall apart and stuff like that, because people don't have a strong sense of community because nobody thought about community building at the start of creating this village. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you'll play a video game with villagers, right? And you'll be like, okay, I need this many carpenters, I need this many this, I need this many, like, whatever. But I guess, I don't know, maybe it's just me thinking about this because I'm obsessed with Medieval Dynasty, but it's like when you're going to find a wife, you don't just find any wife. You find a wife that is most compatible with what you're trying to do. Like if you're wanting to be a farmer, you want to have her have like perks to like the agricultural aspects. If you're wanting to run a business, you're going to want one of them that like, you know, excels in like supporting that kind of a thing. If you want her to be a homemaker, you're going to want her to cook. The amount of women that I meet, and this is just a personal rant and has, you know, I mean, the amount of women that I know that don't know how to cook at all is truly frightening. Truly. Because it's like, what do you mean you don't know how to cook? There are so, like, I'm not even saying, like, you need to, like, Gordon Ramsay, like, chef it up every night. But, like, bitch, you can't even throw something into a pot and, like, make soup? Like, what do you mean you can't cook? We teach this to children. Like, what? So, it's just, you know, crazy to me that, like, the most basic things are just have completely fallen by the wayside. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's how a society falls, is by people, like, not caring about their roles. You know what I mean? Like, your roles are important. But you can fix that. You know what I mean? And honestly, even if you get, like, that actually is that's a great idea, Cow. So when you start dating girls, it would probably behoove you to take them to a cooking class. And one, if she doesn't know how to cook, then it would be pretty cool of her to learn how to cook. That would be something that, like, if I was taking a girl out and she didn't know how to cook, like, I know how to cook and I like to cook, so I would probably never permit her to cook unless it's something that I, like, enjoyed eating. But if she doesn't know how to cook, I don't want her in my life at all. And maybe that's harsh to say, but it's the truth. Because if you can't cook, not that you're not a good cook, if you can't cook, you have very little utility to me. Because that shows me so many more things than just that you can't cook. You can't problem solve. You can't read directions. You can't, like, assess a situation to see if our kitchen is burning down or something. Like, it's so many more red flags than just cooking. Where it's like, you know, oh, I can't believe it. She broke up with me because I don't know how to cook. And it's like, no, I broke up with you because you do not have enough, like, trait modifiers for me to be confident that you won't die if I leave your presence. And that's a lot of stress, you know, for me personally, to have to be worried about, like, oh my gosh, like, how is she going to survive if I, like, get waylaid at the airport or something like that? It's just ridiculous to me. And then not only that, like, I worked with so many girls over the course of my, like, time in entertainment and stuff like that. And I'm like, this girl can't cook at all. Like, I'd come over because I'm quite cheeky. And I'd be like, oh, like, let me come over and, like, I'll make you homemade pasta or whatever. Because it's like, everybody loves to eat. So that is a good way to form connections with people and stuff like that. And I get to this host's house. He doesn't have a pan, a pot, nothing. And I was like, what? And don't get me wrong, it's not just women. I've been to men's houses before. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't have, a pot to boil water in? You don't have that? And they're like, well, I just moved. And I'm like, yeah, you just moved. But, like, where are your pots and pans? And they're like, oh, well, I don't have any. And I'm like, so you cook, but you have no tools for which to be able to cook. That is wild. That's wild to me. So, you know, you can't really trust somebody if they can't perform, like, basic functions for themselves, I guess. And I feel like the craziest part to me is, like, you would think that these traits would, like, work themselves out of the bloodline. Exactly. You would think these traits would, like, kind of work themselves out of, like, the genome for, like, humans. But they don't. Like, every one of these girls that I knew that could not cook at all, didn't have a pot, didn't have a pan, no salt, no pepper in the house except for packets from the store, right? All had kids. Every single one of them. And that, like, horrifies me. It's like, how are you nourishing your child? Like, a child cannot just survive off of, like, chicken tendies. You know what I mean? And here's the thing. how are they even cooking chicken tendies? They don't even have the pan required to like put these chicken tendies in the oven. They don't, I don't even think these hoes know how to use an oven. And I'm like, that's crazy to me. That's absolutely crazy. Like, you know, once again, I'm not saying you have to like know how to do like everything in the kitchen. Like, you don't gotta be like, once again, you don't have to be like Gordon Ramsay, but like, can you throw together a sandwich with relative ease? Like, a sandwich, I should be able to give you pictures and you should be able to put this together. Like a picture book of how to cook. And this is another thing, because the reason that a lot of these girls don't know how to cook is because they don't have a good community. So like, I learned to cook, a portion of it was from like my grandmothers, you know what I mean? Like my grandmothers knew how to cook, and they were just like, that's, you know, a pretty good way to like occupy a child also and kind of keep them out of your hair. But I'm also kind of inquisitive, so I don't know if my cousins can cook. I know that some of them can, but I don't know if all of them can. I think that they, at the very least, can read directions, though. So there is hope yet. But, you know, some of these girls, they didn't have a good relationship with their mother, probably. Their mother probably didn't have the great relationship with their mother. And so, like, if somewhere along the line there was someone that could cook, that information has been lost to them to, like, the sands of time, right? Uh-oh. Oh, no, we got another knot. Now, this is one of the things they don't show in the Middle Ages when, like, all the women are sitting there doing embroidery, is, like, how easy it is to get these freaking knots in here. They're always just doing perfect needlepoint, like, in front of a knight or something like that. Plus. There we go. But if you just don't have, like, and once again, I'm not saying, like, oh, well, if you don't have the skills. And then very briefly, there is a point in this timeline where, like, the school system was like, like, we'll fix this problem. So we had, like, home ec and stuff like that where they would teach you, except I think 1 or 2 years before I went to high school, they stopped doing home ec. I was like, the fuck? But they switched it. Instead of being home ec where they teach you to cook and clean and sew and, like, take care of a child, they broke it into, like, 4 different parts. So they had foods and nutrition, which taught you how to cook. They had parent and child development, which taught you how to rear a child. And then they had, I think, one other class that taught you, like, no, I think they just omitted that. So they, like, didn't teach you how to sew or anything. I think they kind of did that a little bit in theater, but, like, not really. And I'm like, why on earth would you break those things? Like, those are all crucial for everybody, boy or girl. Like, they need to learn these skills because, like, men have children too, you know, and men can also cook and feed. Like, for a long time, men live by themselves or in communal groups, and you're telling me not one of them, like, you're telling me that a group of 4 dudes, you want statistically for not one of them to know how to cook? Like, that's crazy to me. You know, when I moved in with, well, I guess I didn't initially move in, but when I was seeing one of my first boyfriends, there's not very many of them, so I have to be quite secretive of what I tell you about them, because there's not that many to choose from. I go there, and there's, like, 4 dudes, right? None of them know how to cook. They're surviving off of gummy worms and Mountain Dew. And I'm like, how are you guys still alive? This has been months of this diet for you guys? And they're like, yeah, like, this is, you know, if we budget or whatever, like, this is what our groceries are. And I'm like, no. This is not food. These are, at best, snacks. I was like, what are you talking? I was like, there's not a vegetable to be found in this entire house. Like, this is horrific. And then they were like, oh, okay, no problem. And so a couple weeks later, they call me up and they're like, so proud of themselves. And they're like, Riley, you're never going to guess. We bought vegetables. And I was like, okay, what vegetables did you buy? A 25-pound bag of juicing carrots. That's what they were going to survive with. A 25-pound bag of juicing carrots. And I was like, all hope is lost. And so then I taught them how to make mac and cheese. Because here's the thing. We were going for calories, not necessarily nutrition at the time, because I was mostly worried they would starve to death. So I was like, okay, mostly like casseroles and stuff. That's what I'm going to start you guys off with. They're pretty simple, sort of hard to fuck up. I'm going to teach you guys how to make like mac and cheese and like, you know, a casserole version of that. So this is like the from the box method, and this is like the from scratch method. I also put them onto like cheese and apples as like a snack. They're like, what do you mean you're just eating like cheese and apples? And I'm like, yeah, it's like, you know, girl dinner basically, but it's also like more protein and fiber than you guys have eaten in weeks. So a little bit better for you. So I actually got to silver in League of Legends, being like a den mom to this bunch of nerds, which is pretty awesome actually. You know, but that's like a good like learning experience for everyone, because I learned how to main support and they learned how to feed themselves. So it was an exchange of information, and I'm just saying that we should have like maybe more of that in a society, or better yet, we don't let people leave the house until they have like a set amount of like quantifiable skills. You know what I mean? Like, don't let your kids leave the house unless they can feed themselves and like pay like basic bills. Like, I think if it was up to me, I would also make like a little like discretionary fund or whatever that I would make them pay into. Like, I would make them pretend bills basically. I'd be like, okay, so like your phone bill costs like $50 a month or whatever. I'm going to charge you $20 a month, and you have to pay that. And if you don't pay that, I pause your phone plan on my side, so that you can like learn real world consequences without actually having to learn real world consequences. And then once they know all these skills, right, they've been paying into this thing over the course of however long. And then that money, instead of just going to me to pay for things, because I'm already paying those in this hypothetical scenario where I'm somebody's parent, I would then use those funds, right, for like things they need, like, you know, like special things, not the things that as a parent you already kind of like do for your children, not for like school clothes and stuff like that or whatever. I'm saying like a thing they want, like they want to get like a PlayStation or something like that, like something that they want to get. Well, they've paid into the system, and then that's like a little reward that they get to have. And then ideally, when they're ready to move out, they've learned how to do all of these things. That becomes their like, you know, first month's rent or whatever. So then they're like always a month ahead on the rent. So if they get into a pickle, like you as a parent can like save them, and it's like not a nightmare for everybody involved. But people don't think through these kinds of plans to like set their children up for success, and then they are like, why don't my kids visit me on the holidays? Like, it's like because they're broke and you were like low-key kind of mean to them, and we've lost like all sense of decorum, it seems. So like mitigating those things, I think, would improve like birth rates and stuff like that. And also, I think people would just generally be happier if they didn't have to deal with all type of fuck shit when they like have to like be adults. You know what I mean? Like, you used to be able to like, you know, get on your covered wagon or whatever and go visit your family, and they'd be like, oh yeah, so, you know, here's a basket of preserves we've made for you and this and that. And you just had like more community building things, which is something I'd like to do more in the future, you know, for like the new generation and stuff like that, for like my nieces and nephews, and just like, you know, make them an experience, but also they like learn things and become better like villagers for their own communities. You know what I mean? Like, I want people to be impressed by like my progeny and stuff like that, instead of just like tolerating them. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's something that a lot of people, I guess, don't seem to just take into account there. Like, I feel like they just get so like worked up into like their own business that they're not thinking about like the future ramifications of like not teaching your children life skills. And here's the thing, it's okay if you don't know those things. Like, if you currently are a hoe that doesn't know how to cook, that's fine. YouTube exists. There are programs. I'm sure that if you put something out there and we're like, hey, I'd like to learn this, I'm sure that there is someone in the community that wouldn't be a creep that would just teach you how to do those things. Like, I guess depending on your region, you know what I mean? Like, maybe not so much if you're in Alaska or whatever, do crowdfund advice, because I think that that has like a pretty decently high per capita of like sketchy business going on. You know, or I guess maybe Chicago or whatever. But once again, like there's all kinds of like online resources, forums, stuff like that. Like, I mean, hell, even live streaming. If you just like live streamed, I'm sure people would teach you how to do stuff. Like, it's never been easier to like gain this information. And every day I'm even more like disappointed that people my own age don't know how to do things. Like, how are you gonna be 30 years old, don't know how to cook yourself a meal? That's wild to me. In fact, I dated a guy one time that didn't know how to cook either. He'd like never learned. And I was quite mean back then. I wasn't as, well, I'm still pretty mean. But I was like, do you not know how to cook this actually? Like, did you not learn these skills? Or are you trying to do weaponized incompetence so that I will just cook for you? Because that information is very, very important. Because if you just don't want to cook, that's one thing. But if you are incapable of cooking, I need to assess why you're incapable. Like, is it the directions you don't understand? Is it the, like, reading level of it? Like, is emulsify, like, not a concept that you're familiar with? Which, by the way, fair enough. Like, if you haven't encountered these things in the wild, they don't expect you to just, like, you know, learn these things out of nowhere. Like, the concept of, like, folding eggs into flour and sugar and stuff like that, like, might not be something that anybody has heard of if they didn't learn how to cook. Like, something could be common sense to somebody that has like a level 3 skill level of something that somebody's at level 0, they don't understand, they don't have that knowledge yet. But eventually we will either reach an equilibrium where this knowledge like makes its way back into the mainstream, where it becomes like pretty cool to know how to do all these things, because the information's like never been easier to get, or it'll be lost from the sands of time and I will become everyone's new techno god and I will be the only one that will know how to cook, and I will lord that information over you all, and I will teach almost no one for a kingly sum. So I guess those are kind of like two of the like sort of options for the future, I guess. I really prefer one over the other, if I'm being honest. You know, because it would be pretty rad to just like god mode, like lord the fact that I can cook over people and be like, peasant scum, you don't know how to make muffins. But no, that's probably just the grandiose narcissism talking, if I'm being honest. Well, let's. Oh, see, perfect. So back from a family meeting about what we're all cooking for Christmas. See, beautiful, excellent. Everybody coming together, like, and also like, if you've not cooked before, you don't know the like thrill of being the person that brings like a specific dish and people being like bummed out if you don't bring it. Like, if you make the best sweet potatoes or whatever and you don't bring them and everybody's like, you know, is so-and-so coming? Are they bringing the sweet potatoes? Or, oh, are they bringing the pie? Are they bringing those little tarts? Is he cooking the turkey this year? Like, the status of that. Like, you don't have to be like, you know, the Jeff Bezos of anything, but like, you want to be the Jeff Bezos of like one thing. You know what I mean? You want to be that guy for at least one thing. Like, the guy that brings chips to the holiday function, that ain't it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that that could be very valuable if somebody else like makes the homemade salsa or whatever, but like, realistically, if you're the guy that makes the homemade salsa, like, you should bring chips. Like, the option to do like the bodega style like last minute food run thing should be completely omitted from the function. Like, that is like the most low tier, unless you are like real particular or something, like you got a food allergy or something and you need like a little something that's like irregular. Sure, bring like something, you know what I mean? But like, I'm bringing a puzzle and a snack box, you know what I mean? I'm bringing like a little basket, little snacks and treats in it. I'm really excited to do the puzzle, you guys. So pumped to do a holiday puzzle. Well, we went just a touch over our 90-minute thing. So if you guys are new here, definitely subscribe. If you guys are already members, head on over to the Discord. We will be chatting in there. And as always, happy to see you guys. We will be on tomorrow for The Last of Us stream. And that'll start around 8:30 Mountain Standard Time. And I think we did it today, you guys. I think we pulled it off, which hell yeah. So pleased for that. I will see you guys in like, what would that be? Like 24 hours-ish, somewhere around there. Also, tell me what you guys are making for your holiday streams. I'm very curious about that. But